All right. I think that is finally all that I need. Now we can actually start.
Oh, yes.
All right. And I should see what episode it is. Yeah.
113.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of one of, hopefully, your favorite podcasts about video games by a bunch of international friends from all over the world. It's Gaming Fix, episode 113. We're a little light this week. Just joining me is Alex Jelinet. I'm trying to say it right, okay?
You nailed it. It's
Andre
perfect.
gave up.
Yep, you got it. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. We're in the same time zone, and it's early morning in our time zone. We're the only two people in the same time zone.
Yes, and we didn't used to be because I used to live one time zone over.
Yeah. And I'm Pat, in case you hadn't figured that out yet.
Hi, Pat.
I don't have any pithy intro notes because it's too early for that.
We can't all be Andre with
No, that's true. I don't want to steal his thing either.
No. Your dog's favorite food provider? I don't know.
I actually don't know if that's true or not.
That's also fair.
I think our dog's favorite food provider was whichever one of us is currently in the process of giving her food.
That's true. Dog does not have a favorite. Video games.
Yeah, so it's a weird week. It's
been a weird 2020.
Yeah.
Say.
I was thinking about it earlier when I was first getting up and around this morning, and it's like this is probably on par with the week that I moved to Seattle as being one of the weirdest weeks that I have experienced. Just because, like, I'm now working from home all the time, as is my partner, which is going well. We're both in pretty good moods about it, but it has been very strange to just get up and take a shower and take the dog outside and then start working and then just kind of be done around 4 and doing something else.
Yeah. The remote life is weird. I lived it for 5 years before taking my current job.
And I've always worked remote in pieces before. Like every job I've had, I've done some bit of it remote here and there. But this is the first time I've ever, like, a week solid, just done it the whole time. And it's a very strange experience. It's one that I like. I think that, like, we should all do this more, frankly, or have the option to do it more, I should say. But I do wish that it was not brought about by such a difficult set of circumstances, because it would be nice to be able to, like, go out to a cafe and work from a coffee shop or something like that, or go to a like restaurant or something, like go downtown and work from, like, a park there. But not so much in the current climate.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, it's also been weird being remote again after having done it for 5 years, and then specifically moving to my new company to be around people again.
Yeah.
Being like, I'm done with remote. Let's not do remote for a while, because it's nice to see humans.
Totally.
now it's back to 100% remote. So
yep. Yeah, for sure. No, and I wouldn't want to do it 100% of the time either. So I definitely get that.
That might be a thing that we have to do for a little while.
Might be the norm for a while. Yeah. My work is we're planning on doing a virtual happy hour next week.
What?
Which is interesting. Not that you're required to drink or anything, but
how does, like, are you going to play, like, what was that site? Miniclip.com, go play their pool game?
I don't know what we're going to actually do. I know we're going to hang out on webcams for a while. My friend said that his company did it yesterday, because they usually do. It's a company actually I worked for in Michigan before I moved, and they now always used to have the Friday meeting, and then everyone would go to a local brewery afterwards and hang out, the same one usually, for a cup 2 or 3 hours. which was one of my favorite things about working there. And so I guess last night they had a virtual, like they played this trivia through this website that does like Jackbox trivia. Or maybe they were just playing Jackbox. I'm not sure. He said they played Jackbox trivia, and I don't know if that meant like actually
like you don't know Jack or something.
Yeah. But I should probably set that up because I have some of that stuff on PC. I could get it going for my my teammates at work. That would be fun. I'm sure they would all get a kick out of it because I don't think any of them have played before.
That'd be good. Yeah. What would you say are your top Jackbox games, like just off the cuff?
Oh man, I'm a huge TKO fan.
Yep.
I like Quiplash as a classic. I think they have since outdone that game. And I like
Fibbage.
Fibbage is good. I like the one which is the one where you do there's one person who is a liar and everybody else is not, and you get like cues to do like a physical motion.
Oh yeah, I don't remember what that's called. That one's good though.
It doesn't work when you're playing remotely with people. You have to be in the same room, but that one is extremely funny because you just get these like, it'll be like the question of like how many times do you brush your teeth per day, and someone will get like, how many Celine Dion songs do you know? And so you get some very funny answers, and then they have to justify that as the question.
I like those ones. Like it's similar to what's that not board game, but Failed Artist Goes to New York or whatever.
I don't know if I know what that is. I've heard it for sure.
It's basically where if you have 6 people, we'll say 5 people know 5 people know what they're drawing and one person doesn't, and they all have to take turns like drawing one at a time, drawing as much as they can without lifting the pen from the page.
Yep. Fake Artist Goes to New York. Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, that one's real good in a similar way. But for Jackbox, I also like the Trivia Murder Party. Those ones are just they're interesting.
The questions aren't bad. You need just the right number of people for that one.
Sure.
I feel like if you need like 4 people exactly to play that one. Cause I tried playing that with 3 people once and it was not good. But I think I like the first Trivia Murder Party more than the second one, which is weird, but
anyways, yeah. That seems like a great game to be playing with folks right now.
Yeah. I also think I wish I could figure out. Everyone would probably need their own copy. Otherwise, you have to mail people. No, yeah, it wouldn't work. I really, really like Secret Hitler a lot.
Oh yeah.
And would love to see a way to play that digitally.
I don't know. Play it on Tabletop Simulator. I've done that before.
Yeah, you could definitely do it there. I don't know if it's on. It might be on Tabletopia too. Might be. Yeah,
it works really, really well in
TTS.
Because you do have like the little hidden areas where people can't see your cards and stuff, so that works really well.
Yeah, and it is on Tabletopia too, which would be perfect.
We had set it up at the time. The people I was playing it with, we were using Mumble, and we set up a very specific Mumble hierarchy to where if someone got shot, like we could have a spectator room which could hear the actual gameplay room. And
that's great.
And then as soon as you were shot, you were moved into that room, so you could speak freely with whoever was spectating and still listen in on the game.
That's hilarious.
But you could not say anything.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah, it was very fun. I would recommend that kind of setup if you can. I don't think you can in Discord, but
but that's good.
Yeah, great.
That would be another one to get. I think Tabletopia is going to get a workout over the next several months for me because I have a lot of people that want to play board games that we obviously are not meeting physically. So, I like Tabletopia a lot too because Tabletop Simulator is always frustrating to me because it has like such a range of things since it's all like mods basically. There's such a range of things that you can do that it's like, oh, I dropped a card on the floor and now I don't know how to get it, and I gotta either reset the whole game or WASD under the table to try to pick the card up, and that kind of stuff is always very frustrating to me. Whereas Tabletopia, it's a similar environment, but the games are like designed specifically by the like, I think it's like the Tabletopia team. So there's less, like, you can't flip the table, you can't, they only include the options you need for the game that you're playing, so there's not a bunch of extra stuff. And then they have a cool model where you can still, like, if you have a gold subscription, you can still start a game and invite people to it without them having to own it or have a subscription themselves. So yeah, I hadn't thought about Tabletopia as a game to talk about, but there you go. There's your quarantining recommendation to play some board games with your friends.
Yes, and if you do it on Tabletop Simulator, make sure to only download the mods for games you own, because otherwise you're pirating them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's nothing stopping you also. But anyways, support your creators.
Anyway,
what have you been playing, Pat? I feel like I haven't talked to you about video games that you've been playing during the week. So
yeah, I've played a lot of stuff kind of here and there this week. Like, I picked up The Show this week because I'm sad that there's no real baseball, but there's not a lot to talk about there because it's just another year of The Show. It's very good this year, but you know, it's a baseball game. They made the fielding a little bit more interesting. So yeah. And I've been playing League and Smite with my partner and some friends that I used to play League with a lot. Sick. That's been nice as a way to kind of get some social interaction. Still playing Call of Duty pretty regularly.
Warzone or just regular old multiplayer?
You know, I actually I finished the campaign finally, which I enjoyed quite a bit.
Same here.
And then I have been mostly playing just regular multiplayer, not because I'm like not interested in playing more Warzone. I think it's a great mode. It's really just more like I played Warzone for a week and then had a bunch of stuff left to do in the regular multiplayer that I wanted to do in terms of challenges and stuff. So I went back over and played some more of that, but I will be playing some solos in Warzone this weekend. I still haven't gotten around to playing a solos match, but they added that this week, which I imagine is very fun because that map is super cool. That's my favorite thing about Warzone is the map. So I think it lends itself better to a wider range of team numbers as opposed to something like Apex, which feels like it really needs that 3-person team thing because of the character abilities. Whereas Warzone, it works great with 3 people. I think it would work great with 1 person too. So that'll be fun. But the thing that I played that's a little bit different is that's like a multiplayer thing is this early access still on the Epic Store multiplayer shooter called The Cycle. I played it last year when it was still in alpha and it was cool, but there wasn't a whole lot to do in it in terms of progression mechanics, and it kind of needs that. So I sort of let it sit for a bit. But my friends, we have this perpetual problem where we have one friend who is very frugal about games and likes to buy like 1 game a year, which is fine. I respect that. Not wanting to spend a lot of money on games. He's really into tabletop role-playing games. So he does all of our dungeon mastering for our D&D campaigns and stuff. And that's the thing that he tends to like to collect more. So it's hard. He'll buy something if it's like under $10 or free to play, but he's not super into like spending a bunch of money on a game. So like something like Modern Warfare, he would definitely not want to buy, which fair. And then I have another friend who doesn't super like PvP stuff, especially not low time to kill, high respawn timer kind of thing. Like we all together got into Siege and everyone really enjoyed doing the terrorist hunts. And then we got into playing real games and it suddenly fell apart because he and another friend were like, this sucks. I died. And now I have to wait 2 minutes before I can play again. Which also fair.
Yeah.
So it's tough because then my other buddy who I play Call of Duty with and we're kind of like, whatever, we want stuff that's challenging and kind of intense. That's like our goal out of games. So we play a lot of Call of Duty together. He and I are going to check out some Red Dead Online soon. So we're kind of like willing to buy whatever, if people are going to play it. I may not be willing to buy a $60 game all the time, but I will purchase something to play with friends if they want to buy it. So anyway, I was sort of looking for something that we could all play together, that I was also going to enjoy. So I reinstalled this game, The Cycle, and it is a really interesting. It's not a battle royale. It's a really interesting take on, or sort of response to, that genre. The developers who make it made a game called Dreadnought that is available still, which I actually thought was pretty cool, but it also, I don't know if I can recommend putting a ton of time into it. It kind of took the World of Tanks War Thunder formula, which, if you're not familiar, is like you have a vehicle and then it has a bunch of upgrades on it, and you're researching the upgrades using points you're getting from playing games. And then from there, you like tier into the next vehicle. And so it used that structure, but made it all about big capital ships, like spaceships. And I thought it was very cool. It's and fun to play. It's still running, I think. I have thought about going to check it out. But in the meantime, too, what they're making is this game called The Cycle, which is set on a sort of not procedurally generated map. Each game you drop into a kind of puzzle pieced together map that's put together from a set of a bunch of different random handmade chunks of map. So it's like if you broke the PUBG map up into like 30 different chunks, and then you used like 10 of those chunks every game, but you arrange them differently. So you get kind of a different map every time, which is neat. And then you don't get to pick where you drop. You're just given a random drop location on the map, and it's only 20 players. So whether that's solos where you're playing with 19 other solo players, 10 duo teams, or 5 4-man squads, it's always 20 players. And it does have a match timer, but there's no circle or anything. There's nothing like forcing you together. And instead of trying to be the last team standing, you are trying to go around the map and complete objectives that feel kind of like MMO quests. But not, I mean, like
not
I say that
quests, right?
Well, it's so like there'll be a quest to, there's a bunch of different kinds, and every game has a different subset of the like 20 or so different quest types that exist. And it'll be like, mine some minerals. So you go and you drop down a miner onto a patch of minerals, and then it takes like 30 seconds to complete. During that time, some enemies will spawn, like PvE, big alien bugs will spawn, and you have to fight them.
Are you mining Vespine gas?
So there is a gas mining one. The gas mining is different because you put that down and it just sits there. It doesn't spawn enemies. It just sits in a spot on the map and it collects you points throughout the game. There are ones where you have to like go find 3 sentry bots who then fly to this central rocket pod, and then you have to defend the rocket pod while it prepares to take off. And by doing all these things, you get victory points. There's one of my favorites is there's a drill sometimes that will fly around the map and then land over oil patches. And then you have to defend this huge drill. It's like a huge, like Borderlands looking kind of thing. That's like an airship that you're walking around on while it's flying. And then it lands and you have to defend it from enemies as they spawn. And you're like drilling this oil patch. So the twist to all this, there's a bunch of different mission types. Some of them are kind of repetitive and feel similar, but it's generally, they're all pretty fun to do because the shooting feels pretty good. I would almost say that it kind of has like some Destiny vibes in the sense that it's a sci-fi looking world. You're going around these open world zones and doing these kind of normally would be kind of mundane quests. Like if this was a co-op game and it was just like go around the map and do quests, it would get boring pretty fast. However, there are other players. So there is full on, like you just shoot each other. There's PvP. There's no, and like you kill each other and everything. So you're trying to do all these objectives, but you have to keep in mind that there's other players. Additionally, when you start out, all you have is a pistol, but in between matches, you set up a loadout. And as you complete objectives and stuff, you get money that you can spend to buy pieces of your loadout. So and your loadout set is kind of more expansive than what you're going to be able to buy in a match. So you can kind of build a loadout to handle a few different situations. So your loadout might have like a sniper rifle, a shotgun, an AR, and an SMG in it, and then you'll buy different ones for different matches. And so there's some strategy in how you build your loadouts. There's a ton of different pieces of equipment you can put in those loadouts, from like healing grenades to orbital bombardments to like stun grenades and healing spheres. And there's equipment you can get like healing guns for playing in squads. And then another neat thing is when you play the solos mode, anytime you see a player, you can push a button and your character will like wave at them and it'll propose a pact. And when you are in a pact, you can't damage each other and you're like sharing objective progress. So you can actually like buddy up with someone in the solo modes. The flip to it though is it normally has like Halo style shields where as you take damage, it's very high time to kill. You have shields and your health, and both of them recharge automatically after a certain amount of time not taking damage. So when you join a pact with someone, you lose your shield. So it kind of levels the playing field against a person who might be by themselves still.
Right.
So then you spend all this time collecting points by doing these quests. You also get points for killing other players, and it kind of creates an in-match leaderboard of the top 20 people, or top 10 teams or top 5 teams, whatever. And then at the end, it starts to get like a storm kind of starts to show up and deal damage to players. And you have to escape on this ship that lands at the center of the map. And it becomes a big focal point for people to fight, but you can also just sort of like zip in and jump on the ship and get out too if you don't want to fight. And then once you're out, everyone gets their points compared. And then from there, you actually get like Monster Hunter style crafting materials based on how you placed.
Interesting.
You're also collecting them while you're in the world. And sort of the other meta half of the game is crafting the various weapons that exist. It has a bunch of different ones. They're also tied to blueprints that you get from leveling up different factions. You level up the factions just by declaring your faction each game. And so it leads to a pretty diverse set of weapons, and they all have a bunch of different mods you can put on them, kind of like Call of Duty. But you need different crafting materials to make them. So it's pretty cool because it gives you a sense of like, okay, well, I know I want this gun that is like a sci-fi M1 Garand that is down, it's level 8 on the ICA's path to get the blueprint, and I'm going to need these mats for it. And then you go and do the materials. They'll say like, oh, you might find this material near former human settlements. And then you'll focus on going to those places on the map and doing the objectives there. So it is a weird combination of like Monster Hunter style, get the crafting mats and craft stuff, and battle royales in terms of you're all on this shared map for a limited set of time. But then you're trying to complete these co-op objectives that are very PvE while watching out for PvP players, because the map is not big enough where you're not going to run into other people. You can certainly play PvP avoidant, which is kind of what we started doing. But then once we all started to get more confident at it, then it was like, okay, well, now we can start chasing people when we see them and fighting. Yeah, sure. And it's just a really interesting mix of stuff. I'm surprised that it hasn't gotten more coverage because it's very clever in a lot of ways. And it's not like totally perfect. It's still kind of like stuff can be kind of bullet spongy or whatever. And I'm not sure if it would, like, we were all kind of agreeing that like once you've unlocked everything and crafted everything, I'm not sure it would hold interest in the same way that like battle royales would. But it's a cool game and I definitely recommend checking it out. The player count isn't enormous, but it's fine to get games because it's only 20 players. If this were like a 100-player game, it would be rough, but there's usually like around 100 people playing, so you can get a game. And it works really well. I think it's worth checking out.
That's cool. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Does the overall polish of the game feel pretty all right? Or like does it feel janky and kind of...
No, it feels pretty good. Yeah. Like I would say at this stage it feels better than PUBG did like several months into its development. Sure. It doesn't feel as good to play as something like a Destiny or a Call of Duty, but it's totally fine.
Can't hold that against it. Those are two of the biggest studios in the industry.
Yeah, exactly. You have like a jetpack that you can fly around with, which is fun to use. And in general, I would say it kind of has more of a Halo feel than anything in terms of the shooting and the movement. But yeah, I think it's pretty good polish wise. I don't think we haven't run into a bunch of like problems or falling through the world or getting DC'd or anything like that. So yeah. The aesthetic I tend to like quite a bit. That's kind of where your mileage may vary a bit, because it's somewhere in between, like you were commenting that the environments kind of look like No Man's Sky at times, which is true. And sometimes they can look super, super pretty. Some of the characters start to trend more towards Fortnite stuff, which I don't mind, but some people maybe would be less than enthused by. It definitely has kind of like a space Western, slightly cartoony vibe to the whole thing. The concept is kind of interesting too. It's like this planet that people settled, and then it got ravaged by this huge storm. And now the storm just like, it's so big that it covers the entire planet, but the eye of it moves around. So people drop into the eye of the storm to go and like farm resources, but they all live on this space station that orbits the planet. So that's why you have to like get in, do your stuff, and then the storm starts to move over you, and then you got to leave. It's
an interesting lore conceit to a battle royale kind of mechanic.
Yeah, for sure.
That's funny.
It sounds and it is cool over the course of a match. Like the storm starts to get more intense. You don't see it move in like would be cool, but it starts to get more intense and like darker and spookier as the game goes on. It usually starts very sunny and pleasant, and then it gets like stormy and scary by the time you're leaving. So yeah,
it's cool. And sorry, is that a free-to-play game?
Yes, it is.
Interesting.
They have a battle pass now, but the battle pass, as is typical for good ones like this, there's nothing like gameplay relevant in it. There's like, you can get crafting materials from the battle pass, but they're only in the free battle pass. There's nothing in the paid battle pass that has any relevance other than cosmetics.
Cool. That sounds awesome. Yeah, it sounds really cool.
I think it's coming to consoles too at some point, if it's not already on PS4. So yeah,
I think it is on PS4. From the footage I was looking at, it looked like it was on PS4.
Yep. I thought it came out there. They're on their like season 2. So yeah, and it's technically still in alpha, but they actually do like they use the correct terminology for software development, where they call it an alpha because it's not feature complete yet.
Right.
But it feels like it may as well be, and they're like taking money for the battle pass. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Do you want to, we can kind of go back and forth if you want to talk to me a little bit about Murder by Numbers.
Well, we might have a guest soon, so I'll hold off until that guest potentially shows up. So I can talk about the other video game I've been playing.
Great, cool. Then I'll talk about my other video game.
Yeah. So there's a game that came out just yesterday. Well, yesterday from the time of this recording, which is a sequel to a beloved game from 2016 and never before, and that is Doom. So, I was a big fan of Doom 2016, actually. I thought it was really interesting, like the way they kind of revitalized the whole series.
Totally, yeah.
Because everyone was expecting that game to be terrible, because it had not put out an excellent game in a long time. Like, you basically had Doom 3, which people didn't like. Then what did they do? I know they did Rage, which, you know, the mega textures and stuff like that.
There's cool stuff about Rage, but it's a miss overall.
Yeah, like it wasn't bad per se, but it didn't inspire a lot of
No, I played it last year, and like the levels where you shoot stuff are good, but then you have to drive around in a pretty boring open world, and it's way too long too. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. When did Quake 4 come out? Was that also in that kind of range when people weren't liking id Software that much?
I think Quake 4 was earlier, but
I think so too. I'm trying to remember my orders, but either way, like its track record was not particularly great.
No.
So everyone was looking at that thinking, we'll see. And and as we all know, it turned out really excellent. It revitalized the series, and it approached things from both like being technically super good and also gameplay really good, and just overall vibe awesome.
Yeah.
So Doom Eternal, people kind of had some hype going into it rather than the skepticism that they had for Doom 2016. And I'm probably 4 or 5 hours into it. I don't know. There's not a clock on it, so I can't tell you exactly how far. But so far, I think it is good. I don't think it is really good yet, but I think it is good. It feels way more arcadey than Doom 2016, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on parts of it. Like, in terms of campaigns, the closest I would compare it to is like Quake 2, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good campaign. But it's much different in tone and gameplay and all that versus Doom 2016.
Yeah, the footage I've seen is just wild of like the environments and stuff. Like Doom 2016's progression through the world felt pretty natural. Like you were in these Martian facilities and then you go to hell and stuff. Like it felt, a little on the absurd side because it's Doom, but it wasn't like it felt plausible for a science fiction story. Sure. Whereas stuff I've seen from Doom Eternal is just like 1 minute you're looking at an office building and then the next minute you're like in like a super Quake style environment, like corridor, and then like larger room that has like the steel walls and stuff. Like it looks wild.
Yeah, it does have that. And like some of the other arcadey kind of aspects to it, like you're picking up armor shards like you did in Quake, and it actually makes the same sound that Quake had when you're picking those up, which I think that kind of felt cool because, I played a shit ton of Quake back in the day. So that's neat. But like one of the things I enjoyed in 2016 was when you would pick up the little bobblehead dudes, and like you would do those, you would traverse and find the secrets and stuff like that. And just, you would come up and you find this little bobblehead and pick it up and like give it a fist bump or whatever. In this one, all of the secrets just show up as giant glowing question marks. And it's just like, oh, so like, it's like you're just getting a glowing pickup and then you pick it up and it's the bobblehead or whatever. But like I said, armor pickups, when you're picking up new weapons, like they're literally just glowing green versions of the weapon that's spinning around. Like it's not like you're walking up to a thing and pressing E and then picking it up and having a whole like animation. It's just, it just feels like an old arcade shooter in that way, which again, not necessarily a bad thing, just a different vibe. There was something else that was kind of weird. I'm trying to remember what it was now. Sorry. Like you are still picking up lots of pieces of lore and stuff, which is neat. The codex is much bigger this time around, and like reading the lore, it's actually much more fleshed out. Like
that's funny because I would think the opposite would be true based on how weird it is.
Oh, it's extremely weird. The story is interesting so far. One of the things that I found a little weird about it is in 2016, again, comparing, everything was from the first person perspective. There was no cutscenes. Like it was just, it was like a one-shot game, kind of like God of War, if you want to think of it that way.
Well, and it was also my favorite thing about 2016 Doom is the whole premise was that it was a rejection of like narrative shooters in the first place. Like it was at every turn where they were going to inject narrative, the Slayer is like, fuck this, I don't care. Yep. Give me a new gun. Get out of my way. Yeah. And I found that very entertaining. Like it was a little on the nose, but it was fun.
Yeah. It was very dumb in that way. Yeah.
and it was trying to say something, I guess, in a very on the nose again and blunt way, but it felt like more like a piece of of critical media than you would have expected from Doom.
Yeah. And you do still get a lot of that dumb here. Like there is still a lot of that kind of like attitude from Doomslayer.
But I guess from what I've seen, it feels more like attitude and less like an actually clever like critique of the genre.
Somewhat. Yeah, you do get, I would agree with that a little bit. I think,
also it's just been, they did it once before, you know, so it's like,
yeah, exactly.
How much weight does that critique have when you're doing it the second time?
Yeah, it's inherently less impressive because you kind of expect it this time. You're right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's things about it that I super love. Like, I think the gameplay itself feels really good. You're doing a lot more, you're a lot more mobile. Like you start the game with a double jump and you, like you get a dash. You have these things that you can kind of grip onto and send yourself flying through the air. There's jump pads. Like it's encouraging you to be moving at all times. And the combat feels really good for that. Like the combat puzzles are still excellent. I was playing on ultraviolence and it got just way too hard. So I went down to Hurt Me Plenty, just so I can hopefully get through the campaign and then maybe go back to like some of the challenge rooms with the harder difficulty. But yeah, it's good, but it's not blowing my mind as of yet, just because like, so, I don't know, some parts of it feel like a couple steps back and some parts feel like big steps forward. It's a good game, but like I said, not really good for me yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's kind of, I've been on an up and down. Like originally I was pretty excited about it. And I was like, oh, they're calling it Doom Eternal and not Doom 2. What does that mean? That sounds like it could mean something like bigger than it just being a normal sequel.
Yeah.
And then more came out about it and I was kind of like, I don't know if I liked Doom 2016, but I don't know if I need another one of those. Yeah. And then as we've gotten closer to release, and I started I watched Brad from Giant Bomb play a bunch of it, and the specific things that it's doing a little differently in terms of that mobility, and then also in terms of the way that you access secrets and stuff is actually kind of what I want from a Doom sequel.
Yeah.
Hey,
also, we were joined by an Allyson.
Yay! Hi. I slept through all of my alarms.
Oh, it's fine. I wasn't even going to call you out on it.
Good morning.
No, so that's also why I am like half asleep still, because I woke up like 5 minutes ago. So.
Oh, don't worry. We're not going to force you into talking right away.
Cool.
But like one of the things about Doom Eternal, Allyson, since you are now here, that I was kind of struggling with was that the balance of the early game was really bad. Like it always felt like you didn't have enough health or enough ammo. Like the shotgun, you had 16 shells and that was it. And you would have to pick up ammo or use the chainsaw. And like, I get that they're trying to push you into using those systems because those systems are cool, like making it the combat puzzle kind of thing. Yeah. But like sometimes it just felt like I was playing for, let's say, 10 seconds and already seeing like the "you're out of ammo" screen. And it's like, well,
that's frustrating.
Like,
that's my least favorite part of Doom 2016 is the ammo management, because it's, and I mean, I started a replay of it like a month or two ago, and then I actually want to finish it before I pick up the new one. So, it might be a little bit before I get to it, but I'm enjoying playing it again. But the two things that I don't like about Doom 2016 is, one, the ammo management is a little too much, in my opinion. I like that chainsaw system of chainsawing things to get ammunition, but I'm playing it on ultraviolence, and there's been a couple of fights where I'm just like, you got to give me, like, there's a fight about a third of the way, maybe closer to halfway, before you go to hell, where you're in this room with these two big turbines, and they spawn 4 Hell Knights on ultraviolence at the same time. And it's like, and it's already like after you've fought multiple big enemies, and it's really, really frustrating. I almost dropped the difficulty at that point, but I was like, no, I played it on Hurt Me Plenty before. I know I can do it on ultraviolence. I want challenge. And then the other thing I don't like about Doom 2016 is I don't like the the secrets and stuff are cool. And like you were saying, finding the little bobbleheads is cool, but I don't like the fact that you basically, the way you play that game is you finish the level and then you run back through the level to find everything. Yes. And then you spend like an hour running around an empty level. Not always an hour. That's an exaggeration maybe, but you spend anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour running around an empty level, not fighting anything, just poking at walls, trying to figure out where the access to the secret is. Yep. And I don't like that. I will say it sounds like Eternal has a lot more fast traveling that kind of solves that problem.
Yeah. As soon as you get to the end of a level, it gives you the opportunity to fast travel around the level.
So that sounds really cool. That sounds like I like that a lot. And I like the aerial stuff.
Yeah. It also fills in your map. So if like you've walked past a secret area and you've seen it, like it'll very likely be marked on your map. Or if you pick up the auto map thing, it'll tell you, okay, there's a secret around here, so you can fast travel to that.
Cool.
And that's good.
That sounds like good quality of life. But I mean, I don't know. Even if you want the game to have some level of difficulty, which is definitely true, I feel like ammo management is maybe the most annoying way to make something difficult. Like I don't know if it's ever fun in any game to be like, unless it's like survival horror, where
I would argue it's not even fun in a survival horror game.
I mean it's not necessarily fun, but you get it because you're just like stressful. But like Doom, what you want it to feel like is you want to feel like super powerful, and that you don't feel powerful when you're like, oh, I would shoot you, but my shotgun does not have any ammo with it. So.
Exactly. So like for me in 2016, the way I like to play, because I also played on Ultraviolence, was to use as much ammo as I could, and then the chainsaw was kind of a get out of jail free card, right?
Right.
Like, it's a way to reset. It's not like part of the flow. It's like, okay, I need to refill everything. Okay, I'm going to use this chainsaw once in this entire battle, and that should keep me set for the rest of it. In this one, it feels like every encounter you're using the chainsaw like 2 or 3 times, and like I found that balance to be a little off. That being said, as the game progresses and you get some upgrades and you're able to up your ammo count and up your health, because health is also an issue. Like you feel kind of squishy at the start, which also weird for Doom. Like once you get in with the big spider boys, whose names I can't remember, not the spider mastermind, but the other spider boys that have turrets on their head. Like one of those can bring you down like from 100% health to 0 within probably 5 seconds if you're not careful. And like it just, the balance felt really off at the start. But now that I'm like 4 or 5 hours in, it feels better because I've upgraded in a way to kind of mitigate that. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing. I don't think I'm even halfway through. I'm looking forward to the latter half to see how it goes by then. But mixed feelings about the start, but mostly positive.
It's the weirdest thing to me that I don't understand. Like the upgrade system seems pretty much the same as the one from Doom 2016.
Somewhat, yeah.
Very similar. Maybe not. I know it's a little bit different, but the whole profile level thing with the weekly and daily challenges.
Yeah, that's weird.
That seems like totally not necessary and very strange. And I don't know if it's like the idea is you're going to do stuff for the battle mode, or like, I'm so curious what their long-term support for this game looks like. Cause it almost seems like, cause there's the battle mode, which I'm very interested in, where you're 2 demons versus 1 slayer.
Yep.
Which is like catnip to me. That sounds awesome.
Yep.
But then there's the invasion thing, which is like a Dark Souls style. You can like, if you have to turn it on, you can turn it off, but you can invade another player's single player game and play as a demon against them, which sounds very cool as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if they're planning on releasing some kind of like rogue like run based thing separate from the main game where you're just playing through randomized levels with invaders or something.
That would be neat.
Because that seems like something I could get a ton of time out of. Because I like probably one of my actual games of the decade last year, even though I never talk about it, was Devil Daggers, which I think is a absolutely brilliant game. And it's
running on the Quake 1 engine.
Yeah, and it's brilliant because you can just open it and do a run, and the run will last you 5 minutes if you're good. It probably lasts you like a minute, and you can play a few runs, and it's like very fun to just get in, get some shooter goodness, and then get out. And so if there was something like that in Doom Eternal where it was like pop into some kind of daily challenge or just roll a challenge map that's randomized and play it against somebody else who's playing as a demon, that could be really cool. And if that's why there's like daily and weekly challenges, because it's designed as that sort of a service game thing where you're unlocking skins and maybe having a battle pass or something, great. If it's like you can get icons for your profile forever, that sounds like something that doesn't need to be in that game.
Yeah, that seems to be. There's also like the equivalent of like emotes that you can get, which is a little weird. I've not really been interacting with that, but I've also the multiplayer isn't yet available to my knowledge.
The battle mode.
Yeah, the battle mode.
It's so weird.
Yeah, but one thing I'll say is you can't, once you beat a level, once you get back to your hub world, which is called the Fortress of Doom, and it's like basically this asteroid's like orbiting Earth, and it's pretty fucking
That's
great.
Very good.
It's very stupid. And then you can like listen to like broadcasts coming from the rebels on Earth, like that are fighting the hell demons, because you know the premise is that hell has basically taken Earth over. You can listen to them saying, oh, there's been reports that the Doomslayer has been seen on Earth. We don't know if you should talk to him yet. He might not like anyone. So while he's killing demons, which is great for us, he might also kill you, so be careful. And they also refer to him as Doom Guy sometimes, which is weird.
That's good.
Bless. That's amazing.
Yeah. But either way, from the Fortress of Doom, there is actually a menu you can get to where you can go back and play through levels that you've been through with modifiers on or cheat codes. Like specific, like you can have God mode or whatever, like instigating
That's
kind
fun.
of things. So it does encourage some replayability there, which is kind of neat. I haven't actually done that yet because I'm just trying to get through the campaign. But there is an option there, and if they were going to do kind of a roguelike run based thing, I could see it being based out of that, which would be cool. So yeah, Fortress of Doom.
I'm hopeful that they put something like that in, and it just seems like it's sort of built to support something like that. But also, I will probably play it either way because it sounds like it's also just a pretty fun shooter.
Yeah, I'm just
caveats
hoping.
Aside.
Yeah, I'm just hoping to find Isabel in there somewhere. Like as just a little bobblehead or whatever, because it's still the best thing that the gaming industry has seen in a long time. Is that whole crossover?
I'm so happy that those two fandoms decided let's be chill together. But yeah, even though I am definitely playing the other game, I might have to pick up Doom Eternal at some point, or at least pull out my copy of Doom 2016, because that sounds really like cathartic to play right now. Yeah. So I might have to play it again. But
yeah.
Speaking of that other game.
Yay! Animal Crossing came out finally.
Yeah, Pat, you've also been playing it, right?
Yeah, less. I haven't put as much time into it, but I have played it. I did pay off my Nook Miles, my initial Nook Miles debt last night, and my house should be available today.
I know. My house should be available today, so I haven't played it yet. So after this podcast, I'm going to go get my house. So I'm very excited about that.
So how has a significant amount of time been spent in the tent? And like does it feel like you're getting to the house quickly, or does it feel like you've spent a lot of time in the tent?
I paid off my Nook Miles pretty quickly. Like I started playing the game at 11 p.m. My time, because that's when it unlocked. I played for an hour and a half, went to bed, woke up, played it for a little bit in the morning, and I was able to pay off my Nook Miles. So I am going to be starting up on day 3, and I should be having a house. That said, there's still a lot of things that are going on with the island. Like there's still a lot to be unlocked and discovered. The other thing that I'm very excited about today is that Blathers from the museum is coming. So I'm like, fuck yeah, come hang out on my island, Blathers. But there's still, like really, when they start off the game, it is there's a lot more progression than any other Animal Crossing game I've played because of the whole you unlock various things or you develop various things. So that's definitely interesting. So even if I'm getting out of my tent today, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Have you encountered Mr. Versetti yet?
He apparently is not in the game anymore because he
they laid him off.
Yeah.
They shut his department down and laid him off.
Yeah. Apparently, like there's like a rescue thing where if you get stuck somewhere on the island, you can get Mr. Rossetti to come get you, but you don't see Mr. Rossetti.
So sad.
I know. So he still has a job. It's just, maybe less fun for him than yelling at people because they turned off their game without saving.
Missed opportunity too, because you could totally have him be like the doomsayer when you turn off your game in the middle of a save and it corrupts your save file and you have to restart. He could be the one that's like, you fucked up.
Like, I shouldn't even be here, but
yeah,
you fucked
exactly.
up.
I'm coming out of retirement for this.
It's like this was supposed to be so easy for you, but you fucked it up. Yeah. No.
I think it's definitely more engaging to me than past Animal Crossing games in terms of it does feel like you're kind of building something, which is very cool. It's funny because there's certain things that I think are indicative of the kind of I'm trying to word this because I really don't mean this as like a way to pick on people who are longtime Animal Crossing fans. Sincerely, I don't. It seems like there are people, and I wouldn't even like put you in this group, Allyson, because you play such a wide range of games, but there are people who Animal Crossing is like one of the only games that they play.
Right.
Like maybe they'll play Animal Crossing and Pokemon, or maybe they'll play Animal Crossing and like Stardew or Harvest Moon style games, or maybe they play Animal Crossing and Minecraft, but they don't play like a wide berth of games. And it's interesting because there's things like Animal Crossing has weapon durability, for example, which to me, I saw it and was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. My fishing pole is going to break. But to my mom, who doesn't play a lot of other games, she plays a lot of like puzzle games and stuff, but she doesn't play a lot of like RPGs and stuff like that. It's interesting. It's like, oh, well, that's interesting. Now I have to collect some more sticks to make another fishing pole. And so it's interesting the way that it almost feels like they could, as long as they do it with the level of quality that Nintendo puts into pretty much everything they make, they could do almost anything. Like they could say like, oh, we're going to have a tactics game in here now where you fight weeds or something. And people, even if it was implemented in a way that to the rest of us was kind of like, this feels like more busy work. Yeah. There is a subset of Animal Crossing fans who would just be like, awesome, great, this is so cool.
Right. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because I think there's a lot of that kind of adapting stuff that has kind of become maybe rote or repetitive or frustrating in other games, and trying to give it some kind of new life in this game. And I don't even necessarily have horizons. Yeah, exactly. I don't even really have like a critique either way. Like the fishing pole breaking hasn't been a big problem yet. I've had 2 fishing poles break.
Yeah, I've had more than that. The only problem I had was that I ran out of sticks. So then I was trying to shake trees to get sticks, and then I get stung by wasps. So it's a whole thing. But then I could just buy it. But then I just bought a fishing pole from them.
And that's the thing, is it seems like there's always ways around the frustration that keep it from getting, that make it into a momentary setback. Right. And it doesn't feel to me, I'm sure there are people who are playing it this way, but it doesn't feel to me like the kind of game where I'm like, okay, start my time in Animal Crossing by collecting all the sticks I can find and making 10 fishing poles. It doesn't feel like that at all. Because the world is such a perfect size that it feels like it's like, okay, well, I went fishing for a bit and my pole broke, so I guess that means now it's time to go catch some bugs. Right. Which
that
works.
That's what I've done too. Or if you're like really getting into that fishing, you're like, okay, time to go get another one. But it's like it doesn't feel like super frustrating.
No, and
it's just kind of more of like you're fishing and then it breaks and you're like, I think the strongest emotion I felt was like, oh darn.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And in a way, that's almost pleasant somehow.
Yeah.
Which is very strange.
But the strongest emotion that you feel is just like, okay, that sucks.
Crap. All right.
I know. Guess I gotta make another one.
And I think that the way that it's so ripe for being like Nintendo's destiny, in the sense that they can just add, like, there's so much they can add onto now. Like, I mean, I know that they did this with New Leaf to an extent too. So I know it's not like the first time, and I just didn't play that one much, but because of the fact that the Switch is marginally online, it's more online than any other Nintendo console has been before.
Yeah, it's more online, but that's not saying a whole lot.
No, but they do have the capacity to push like events and stuff, and like they've done that well with stuff like Splatoon in the past. So I think that that's the most exciting part to me, is as long as I can get my town to like a somewhat livable state, the idea of coming back for like different events and things sounds fun.
And from what I understand, events are based off of the online time versus the in your Switch time, which is not necessarily like that big of a might not sound like a lot, but for example, you can't time travel to the first event right now.
I'm gonna let you make your point, Alex. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, like, if comparing it to Splatoon, if you were gonna have like a Splatfest style thing in Animal Crossing, how would that work? Would it be like you choose a side and then you like collect a certain amount of bugs that are contributing to a giant pool for everyone, or what?
I don't know that it would work exactly like that.
But like it would be interesting to have kind of a Splatfesty style asynchronous kind of.
What you do is that you take a bunch of paint and you throw it around, and whoever gets the most paint on their islands wins.
Okay, if anything, I think that the game's biggest failing from what I've seen, and I really hope that this is something they can rectify and add somehow to in there, is the fact that there is not a way to just go visit someone random's island.
And
that feels well, maybe, but also like just enjoy it, just like see other people's creations. It seems like a huge missed opportunity, and I understand that a lot of kids play the game and that there's a lot of freedom in what you can put on your like bulletin board and stuff, like
or just like you could make a custom design and then put it on the ground, and just it could say whatever the fuck you want.
I mean, my first bulletin board post was "Eat my ass." Just kidding.
Mine was just a drawing of me going like, yay. So this is the difference between you and I.
I mean, I'm not looking to make my town into a total vulgar city, but
maybe slightly vulgar city.
But I feel like you could still you could censor stuff for when you're going to random, like maybe you could make it so like, oh, designs just don't pop up.
Right.
And
or you don't see...
and if there's language, they filter out language in bulletin board posts and signs and stuff like that. I feel like that would be possible. As it stands, all you can do is really like make your island and then make a YouTube video about it. Which is a little bit frustrating.
That was the thing I missed about not having. Well, I borrowed a Wii U. I never had my own, but like just the whole. What was the way that you would draw things and people could see them? The Miiverse. Was it Miiverse? Yeah. If Animal Crossing could have their own Miiverse-y kind of thing that was just as unmoderated as Miiverse was, that would be perfect. They had
that in Splatoon as well.
Yeah, so exactly.
And Mario Maker, to be frank. But
that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that they've managed to make experiences that are very, very, very much custom content that have somehow not caused Jack Thompson levels of outrage among parents. So I don't see why they could not do something like that for Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to like earn it somehow. Like maybe you have to get a certain number of like, I don't know, like points that prove that you're a good community member or something.
Well, so you have to fucking build your credit, is what you're saying?
I don't know. I mean I'd take my eat my ass bulletin down if it meant that I got some points.
You need a credit score of above whatever to interact with the community.
I mean, that's kind of what Nook Miles are. And honestly, I think the Nook Miles system is like kind of ingenious because it does give you that little rush when you see like, you got new Nook Miles. And you go, oh, yes. What did I get Nook Miles for? And it's usually something that's completely arbitrary and completely like dumb. And you're just like, cool, okay. Like you get Nook Miles for starting the Nook Miles program. You get Nook Miles for spending Nook Miles. You get Nook Miles for basically everything. But it gives you that little like rush. Like it kind of feels like the kind of way that they would try to make. Yeah. Yes. Like how they would try to get you into a like free to play game, but it's a paid game. So there's no like scummy here. You could pay extra money to get that rush a little bit more.
Here's like
you could go and fish though. You could catch 10 more fish and then you'll get another stamp on your Nook Miles fishing card.
And you get like 300 more miles. And the other thing that I thought is interesting is that if you have like a passport, it gives you like new words for it.
Yes.
So it's like, you're just like, oh, I want to see what all those words are.
Do you know what the Nook Miles system is? And this is great. It is the gun camo system from Modern Warfare, but they put it in Animal. I'm dead serious because you unlock gun camos in Modern Warfare by being like, oh, get 100 long shot kills, get 100 kills while mounted on a piece of terrain, get 100 kills while crouched. It's that. It's 100% that, except they put it in Animal Crossing, and it's very good. It is like, it's very cathartic and very like, oh well, I only need to catch 5 more bugs and then I get more Nook Miles.
Right, and it gives you like if you're at a point where you're thinking, okay, it's been there's not much more to do on my island right now until the next day. You can pull up your Nook Miles and go, okay, I want to fill this out or do a little bit more, or I want to have enough Nook Miles so that I can buy this or that. So it gives you an incentive to keep playing. Yeah. But which sounds like it would be for like a free to play game, but it's an incentive to keep playing the $60 game that you don't have microtransactions in.
Yeah. 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 It's that all that stuff is pretty smart. I still the only I don't know what the right word is. The only issue that I have with it still is I still struggle with and actually Nook Miles does help with this more than in previous games, but I still struggle with okay, so the 3 things I'm doing in this game mechanically are collect stuff, which is pretty similar, different ways that you collect stuff, sell stuff that I picked up for bells, go find stuff to sell for bells, and then drop stuff in my house. And sometimes my brain clicks into like, why am I doing this mode? And it's a little bit challenging.
No, I get you. There are definitely, I feel like I've hit those times in previous Animal Crossing games. I haven't hit it that much this game yet. That said, I guess I'm probably more predisposed for Animal Crossing, so it takes a little bit longer for it to click in my brain.
Well, and what I try to remember is like I really like Sea of Thieves, for example, and there's no reason to do anything in Sea of Thieves except to make numbers go up that unlock cosmetics. So, like at the end of the day, the reason you should be playing any game is because moment to moment you're having fun. And so if that's the case, that's all that matters. But it is like sometimes it challenges my like brain circuits of like, well, but I'm not getting a better gun. I'm not doing anything to get anything better. So what's the point? But I also think that the crafting helps with that too, because eventually it's going to be like, oh, I'm sure there is some really good golden shovel that I want to craft that I'll need a bunch of different resources for. So speaking of, do you know how to get iron yet?
So do you have an axe yet?
Yeah.
So you could just hit rocks with an axe.
I did notice that, and money comes out of them,
sometimes,
which is very good.
But sometimes if you hit rocks, money doesn't come out of them, but it does stone, clay, and iron.
Okay, cool.
So,
I figured that might be the case, but I wasn't sure. Cool. That's good to know. So yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying my time with it thus far.
I'm really enjoying it, and I feel like I so much has been said of this game is the game that we need right now. But when I booted up my game and the music started playing, and they're like, "Go to an island," I'm just like, "Thank you."
Oh my God, the music is so good. The music is like the best Sesame Street music. Like seriously, it's like really soothing, like jazz trumpets and stuff like that, and like very, very relaxing, but not all the way into like shitty like grocery store music or anything, or elevator music. It still is like engaging enough.
Don't talk shit about CVS bangers on this podcast.
I still don't understand. I was laying in bed listening to that, and my partner was like, "What are you listening to?" And I was like, "It's this thing that Alex and Andre really like."
I never said Austin I really like it.
Oh, I thought you were saying you liked it.
I think it's dumb.
Andre liked it. I was listening to it just like, this is stupid.
Oh, it's extremely stupid.
It didn't grab me. As a huge Mouth Sounds fan, I did not find the same level of craft in CVS bangers.
I would agree with that.
As with anything in the times that we live in, if you're getting enjoyment out of it, that's great.
Yeah. So I have two questions. First, what fruits are hanging out in y'all's trees?
I have apples.
I have pears, but my mom, who for a second I thought might be my real mom, because she could have very easily gotten a Switch and started playing. She really likes Animal Crossing, but she doesn't have a Switch. So I wasn't sure if like somehow she got like my friend code from my brother or something. I don't know, but you get a thing from your mom and she sends you some fruits. And the fruits that I got were peaches. Now I have peaches
she sent
and
me
pears.
Peaches too, and I can't plant them yet, so they're hanging out in my inventory, and I am like constantly anxious about accidentally selling them.
Why can't you plant them?
Wait, you can't plant them right away? You can?
Oh yeah, I planted them. I planted all three of those.
Okay, number one thing I'm doing right now.
I think you have to dig. I think you have to dig a hole to plant them.
Right, but you can't dig a hole yet.
Oh, I have a shovel. Oh yeah, there's a.
How do you get a shovel?
I got it from Blathers.
Okay, so that's the other thing. Is that okay? So I don't have a shovel yet. So that was the issue.
There you go.
Because Blathers is still coming to my island today.
Gotcha. Okay. See, the first night that I played, all I did was get everything set up initially, and then I crafted a fishing pole, and then I fished 10 motherfucking fish right in a row. Like I missed one of them, and then was like, oh yeah, I remember how fishing works now, and then just started nailing them, and then donated a bunch of them to Nook, and got the like tent to put down for Blathers the first night.
Oh, so you got Blathers like right away.
Oh
yeah. Yeah. I didn't
he was
get
there
it until yesterday. Dang. Okay. So that's why, because I didn't have Blathers there, so I couldn't get a shovel.
As soon as you talk to him, he's like, oh, so you don't have the vaulting pole either then?
No.
Oh, yeah. So as soon as you talk to him, he's like, yo, there's fossils in them there hills, but you're going to have to get over the river. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to learn how to build bridges. And instead he's like, if you pole vault over the river, I was like, okay, this is very silly.
Yeah, it's very silly, and it helps you get around. But my small corner of my island is beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
It is pristine without any weeds. I got it great, but don't worry, I sold them to a child. So
yes,
yeah,
you can sell your weed. You can make your weeds into stuff too. Eventually, there's other
I made it into a little umbrella.
Yes, it
was very cute.
Yep.
My second question.
I'm excited to be able to pole vault today.
Word. I'm not even touching that because that's just such a great statement. I don't know if you've seen the memes, but one of my favorites has been the person who's like, oh, I really can't wait for Animal Crossing to come out. I wish I could just like step away from work for a while and just play this all the time. And then it's just a monkey paw kind of thing for our current situation. And I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah. I saw that. It's very funny. It's extremely true, but it's also, I think, just kind of indicative of how like much this game resonates with people right now, especially in this time, because it's like, oh, it's just such chill experience. You go hang out with your friends, like you can go visit people in person. You talk to them in person, and it's just there's so many little things that like that is a very monkey paw situation, but at the same time it's like it feels totally understandable why this game is resonating right now.
I think it did hit at the perfect time.
And I definitely like one thing it's really great for is I was kind of looking for something. If you're fortunate enough to be able to work from home, it is a really good, like, oh, well, I'm in between tasks and I've been working for the last couple hours. I need something to do for like 10 minutes that isn't work. It's very good for that because, I also, like I had mentioned, I picked up the show this week and I have Grand Blue Fantasy Versus that I'm still playing and Call of Duty and stuff. All of those things require just a little bit too much time investment to take a like quick break from and play. So I think it's perfect though to be able to just pick up Animal Crossing, and it's on Switch. So it's like, I don't even have to tab away from like what I'm doing. I can just pick up my Switch and play it at my desk for a few minutes and go catch a couple of fish or something. And then sort of do a brain reset.
I definitely did that a couple of times yesterday during the work day where I was working, I got something done and I was like, okay, I'm going to take 10 minutes to go visit my Animal Crossing village. Yeah. And that was really nice.
Yeah.
To have.
Yeah. And it should be noted that meme, I think, is very tongue in cheek because obviously the situation is fucking terrible.
Oh, yeah.
For all involved, especially those who are currently without work. That's like.
Oh, it sucks. It
is at least a little bit of levity in these times, which is very necessary. And like I said, I personally don't have that much drive to play Animal Crossing, but I think it did hit at pretty much the perfect time.
Yeah, and I feel like there's also like I feel like both of the games that came out this week with Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing, like there is a certain level of like catharsis that like makes them both kind of perfect for this time. Where in Doom Eternal you're just shooting things very viscerally, but in Animal Crossing you're making connections, and I feel like both of those have like such a place right now.
Agreed.
When you said that you're talking about a meme, I thought you were going to bring up the number one thing that's missing from Animal Crossing New Horizons, which is almost unforgivable. Which is
but Pat, what is it? Is it? Well, you can already sell weed, so that's in there. Can you?
I assume you can grow mushrooms.
Can you dab?
Well, you can catch a dab.
You can catch dab. I think that makes sense fair. You have such little arms that it would be hard to, get
properly dab
there to get a nice deep dab. Can you floss?
No, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, what are you talking about, Allyson?
From people who have done data mining of this game already, there is no froggy chair, which
that's right,
and that is a terrible miscalculation on Nintendo's part, and hopefully they patch in a froggy chair.
Yeah, that's needed ASAP. Also, my closing statement on Animal Crossing, not that we have to stop, but
we'll be talking about it again.
If you and I hope Sam is listening to this because he flirted with this idea. If you time travel and you're an adult and you're like talking about this game actively, fuck you. Fuck off. You're cheating. You're cheating. And I wish that Nintendo had some kind of battle eye system to ban you and take your copy of Animal Crossing away. Because the whole thing, we're supposed to do it together. Everyone's supposed to experience it at the same time. We're supposed to have conversations about like, oh, I got the vaulting pole today, and now I can dig holes and stuff. It's not. It would have sucked ass if I had come here today and been like, oh, Allyson, don't worry, I time traveled to the end of the progression tree, so I know everything. Let me spoil the entire game for you. Like, oh my god. It's one thing if you're like a child and you're impatient. I'm not gonna get mad at children, but like
that's beautiful though.
Grow the fuck up, be patient. Farm a fucking fossil like the rest of us in real time. That's the whole point of the game. Like if you just like bought the Call of Duty Battle Pass and then bought 100 tier skips right off the bat, the only person you're hurting is yourself. That's all I have to say.
Animal Crossing, ladies and gentlemen. Allyson, guess what?
Yeah.
We both been playing the same game also. So
yeah,
like it's like our Venn diagrams do line up with Allyson kind of in the middle of all of them.
It all works out.
Yeah. Did you want to start talking about the one that we have in common, or should I just jump into it?
You can jump into it.
Okay. Well, I have since last week finished one game known as Murder by Numbers.
I am not quite finished, but I'm in the middle of the fourth case. I've been playing it. I've actually played it last night after I was like, I should probably just let my Animal Crossing out of the rest for a minute and play more Murder by Numbers.
The last case is long.
It is. Oh my gosh. I think I just got to to level B.
Oh yeah.
But like it took me so long.
Yeah, the last case is like probably double the length of the cases that come before it.
Yeah. So like playing through the game, I'm like, oh, this is a good length, and it's still a good length, but I'm just like, oh, you put a lot more into this last case for sure.
Yeah, and having finished it, I'm gonna say I really like the game, but I think hopefully this makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't.
Yeah,
I think the story is good, but the plot is bad. Like, I think the moment-to-moment interactions between characters and stuff are good, and like the little things that are happening and those little bits of writing are good, but the overall plot is extremely predictable and borderline bad.
Yeah, I see. I haven't gotten to the end of it, so I can't necessarily speak to all of that because right now they're still trying to do the there's still going to be, I think, some reveals and things, but I think that the overarching mystery that they have throughout all the cases isn't quite as interesting as it could or should be. Like it's not the drive to get those answers isn't why I'm playing this game, basically.
Yeah, you're there for the characters.
And they're for the characters, and they're for the Picross. I think that the characters are strong enough that it doesn't necessarily hurt the game all that much, but or really rather hurt that drive to play the game, I guess.
Totally.
But
like I still really wanted to play the game because I was interested in what was going on, and like the mystery itself was never really the biggest draw. Like it was just more seeing the character interactions and how Honor is written, and her interactions with Detective Cross and all that kind of stuff was fun. Yeah. And like the whole third
Scout is the best gaming robot for a while. I love Scout.
I love Scout. I love especially that he has an arc and that the arc is interesting. I'm hoping to finish Scout's memories, like all of them, because I S-ranked all of the cases, and I know you had some issues with that. We'll get to that. But I really did think that the third case was really interesting, though. Like, again, for story, not for plot. Like, the plot of that one wasn't that interesting.
Well, I feel like I figured that out, like, miles before they figured it out.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, yeah.
Yeah, when the case resolved, I was like, wait, that's it? Because I was like, I was guessing that like from the beginning.
Yeah. It was like, oh, as soon as this character is introduced, that seems what this is. And then everyone's surprised when that ends up being true. It's like, oh, really? Okay. Like, that's what I mean when I say plot, not matching up to story. But like, I thought that whole third case was some of the best handling of queer communities I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it was really good.
Which was really interesting. Like, I thought it was like, there's a moment where Scout is questioning his or her gender.
That was so good.
Which was really interesting because Scout is a robot, and the advice that Scout gets given is, you know, you can be whatever you want. You can be, if you feel more masculine, you can be a guy. If you feel more feminine, you can be a girl. If you don't feel like either, you don't have to be. You can be whatever you want. You're Scout.
And the resolution is like, yeah, I am Scout. And it was very cute.
Yeah. He's psyched about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. But you did encounter some fun S rank stuff, didn't you?
Yeah. So my biggest issues with this game are, like, they're not. I feel like they're not necessarily that huge. It's just more of like, I do want to get S rank on all of these cases, and the fact that I'm A rank on one is still kind of bugging me. So basically, I had a couple of issues with the save files in this game. First, I was playing one of the Scouts Memories puzzles, and those are basically kind of a lot of side puzzles to unlock little story bits. So I was playing one, didn't really feel like finishing it, and I wanted to play another game. So I decided to just exit out of the game and figured autosave would catch me. That was not true. And I went from being about, I'd say about 2/3 of the way through the case to back right at the beginning of the case, which was unfortunate. And then the second thing that happened was I was playing through that case again, and I apparently missed one of the puzzles, and I just completely didn't see the puzzle. It didn't, and I couldn't, and that meant I got an A ranking. But apparently that puzzle, like for the puzzles that you do, all of it is usually finding evidence. So usually you kind of need to do all the puzzles, in the main game at least. Whereas this, it was just completely missable. In my oldest save file, I knew where it was, but since I had gotten past to that point where you looked for those items, I couldn't go back. So to S rank that, I'd have to basically redo the entire case, which
is not arbitrary, because you still have to do all those Picross puzzles, and some of those take a long time.
Right, and that's one of those things where if it was like, if I could like just speed through the story, pick up that last one, and then just be like, cool, I got it, S rank. That would be one thing. If I could just speed through it and get to the one Picross I missed, but I'd have to redo the entire case, which I'll probably do probably sooner than later, because it's like I'm weirdly frustrated by it, and I want the final bits of story with Scout, but at the same time,
it's a big ask.
It is a big ask, and it's kind of frustrating that there's no way to go back or even just like, here's the puzzles you missed.
Yeah,
you can do them. You can up your rank if you want.
There's a lot of quality of life problems that I've had with the game. Like, again, overall, really like it, but like things like you can't get to the options menu from like the visual novel parts.
Yeah.
Like, you have to wait until you're at like a quote unquote gameplay part. There's no log option. So like if you want to go back and see previous
there
dialogue,
should be a log.
That you might have missed, or like sometimes I was just like tapping through to the next dialogue, and it got to a choice, and I accidentally just picked the first choice because it happened so quickly that I was like, oh, I didn't even know that Like it just automatically brought me to the choice while I was clicking. So it's like, oh, okay. So like it gets some of the visual novel stuff, quality of life stuff just wrong to the point where it kind of impacts the gameplay a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that's the bit that's like the visual novel quality of life, especially the log, like that's pretty standard for most visual novel type games, is that you can go back and re-see dialogue if you accidentally skipped over it, or if you just want to read it again. And the fact that you can't, and it's so easy to skip past dialogue is extremely got to be frustrating.
Yeah. And in your case, because from the main menu, you can go back and play any case, which is fine.
Yeah.
And you have completed the case that was broken for you. That's fine.
Yes.
But there's no skip. Like that's very standard in a visual novel where you can like skip all the dialogue that you've already written or read so you can get to the new stuff. That's not an option here. So for you, if you did want to replay it and get your S rank, you'd have to go through all of it again, clicking through every moment.
And review every single puzzle, which I really like most of these puzzles because they are genuinely challenging but doable.
Oh, yeah.
Like
they're tough.
They're tough. Like I'm glad it's not just me because I'm like, am I just bad at Picross? Because these are hard.
Oh,
but they're genuinely really hard, which is good because the sense of satisfaction when completing them is really great.
Totally.
But they're not necessarily nothing to go back and easily redo, especially for this. And I feel like other games that have puzzle type, like discrete puzzles, have had sort of elements to go back and get the ones that you missed. Like I'm just thinking of the Professor Layton series, where if you miss a puzzle and it disappears from the overworld or from the world, you can go to a specific area and all of them are there. Like all the ones that you missed are playable. So you can still access all of that content even if you missed it for whatever reason. And I'm like, why couldn't you have done that here?
Yeah, and again, it is an indie game, so maybe they didn't have the resources. I don't know. But yeah, overall, Murder by Numbers, good.
I feel like I feel like all of these, like we were talking about this earlier this week, and I think you put it very succinctly. Like my biggest problem with it is that I can't experience all the content right now, and that's a pretty good problem to have with this game. Is just that I feel like the characters are also charming. The story, the individual moments are all just so fun and written well that I just want to experience more.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
I could easily see sequels for this, and I am like, please Murder My Numbers team, make more.
And it's ready for DLC with how the menus work.
Yeah,
like you could just add a new case, and that would probably work.
I would buy every case because I think the characters are like that's the thing, is if these characters were annoying or not good, this game would be kind of a nightmare to play.
Yeah. But
I think the fact that like both of us are actively fans of the characters, it says a lot.
Yeah. There's only like one or two characters I didn't like, but I think they were designed to be that way. So
yeah, they're characters that are specifically unlikable, but you know that they're intended to be unlikable.
Yeah,
but
fuck you, Ryan.
Ryan sucks. Okay, fuck him,
Ryan.
Anyways, yeah, Murder by Numbers is a good game. You should probably play it. It was pretty long. I think I finished at around 18 to 20 hours.
Yeah, you get a lot out of it, especially for an indie game. And since I bought it within the launch window, I had a sale, so I think I bought it for like just over $10, which that value proposition is pretty good.
50 cents an hour.
Yeah.
And what do you think, Pat? Are you going to play some Picross?
Probably not. It's not that I don't. I mean, I think it looks good. I just have so many things right now. I don't think it's going to make the cut in the near future.
Oh yeah, this is just one that popped up during one of the indie segments for.
Oh yeah, no, I know it.
And I saw it. I was like, this is the game that I need because I love the Ace Attorney games. And I love and Picross I love, and it just looked. And then you have like a fun robot friend. I was like, this is everything.
I think I remember you and I specifically lighting up our chat when that showed up.
Yeah, we're like, hey, it looks so good. And so it's definitely not a game for everybody, especially since there's so many games to play for sure. But I feel like it's for the specific people who want this game. They really want this game.
Yeah. But yeah, fuck Ryan. Anyways,
fuck Ryan.
we got news, y'all.
Yeah.
And not all of it is bad.
No, yeah. Most of it, I mean, like, for all the news that we don't say, there's probably an implication that there's bad news involved, but
that's true to life in general, probably.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyways,
what news do you want to talk about first? The first story on our list is such a you story that I was going to let you take it away.
No, it's fine. How about you guys pick? You have the list open there, right?
I do not.
Well, I think that the top two items we have here, the Xbox Series X specs and PS5 stream with Mark Cerny, are both two sides of the same coin.
Yep.
So it makes sense to talk about those.
Xbox came first chronologically.
Yeah.
They released that just basically as an update on their website.
Right.
And I don't know. It looks like a PC. It looks like a very standard way to set up a computer. They revealed the CPU, or at least the clock speed and stuff like that. They revealed the RAM, the hard drive, basically the GPU. Like it wasn't really that anything out of the ordinary. It was like, okay, so it's basically we're building a computer with these specs.
And that's kind of always seemed like what their strategy is. I think the one thing, the use case thing that I saw that they showed that was neat is they had a video demonstration of like, you can suspend and resume. Basically, I get the impression it's like basically unlimited games, as many games as your hard drive has on it. It'll store save states for whatever you're playing. So you can currently do that with like up to one game and like an app or two now on the One X. But for the Series X, it'll be like, if you can play a game of whatever, like Call of Duty, and then jump over to Ori and it'll literally be in the spot you left off. And then when you go back to Call of Duty, you'll be right in the same spot, which is cool. Although also for some of those, when you have to like sign into services, it's still going to break. Yeah. But still, it's cool.
That's a fine concession to make for the overall like service to work. Like if it works as advertised, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you want to dive into that, but then the PS5 stream happened, which is the Mark Cerny one, which was basically detailing similar stuff, but he was going more into the details of why they made the decisions they did and what influenced them, and ultimately what consequences will come from them, like consequences in a positive way. Like, we made these decisions, this will be the outcome.
And I think he outlined that talk really well by saying it would have been a GDC talk.
Yes, I think that was the perfect way to start that, because for me, it 100% contextualized what the whole stream was going to be. Though before the stream happened, they marketed it very poorly.
Yes, that was my biggest frustration with it. Yeah,
I think that the idea of having like, oh, this is what we would have talked about at GDC, great, but like there are a lot. I was on a conference call, so for the most part, I was kind of like had it on in the background and on mute, but I saw the chat sometimes, and like there are a lot of people that were like, what the fuck is this? Like, or this is so boring. And it's like, it's definitely not something that was aimed at the general public, but I think a lot of people in the general public thought that it would be.
Yeah, because basically the way it was announced was Sony's Twitter was like, hey, we're having a stream tomorrow about the PS5. Like, we're going to share some details about the PS5. And everyone's like, ooh, game announcements? Ooh, like, are we going to get a date? Are we going to see the box? Blah, 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 blah. And like,
there's none of that.
Like, because it was such a vague tweet. He was just like, yeah, PS5 details tomorrow. Check it out. And yeah, like I said, the moment Mark Cerny said this was going to be a GDC talk, I was like, oh, fuck yes. This is exactly what I want. But I don't think that meant anything to like 95% of the chat that was there.
Right.
When I wasn't watching it, so that was part of my frustration when we were talking about it, was I was basically just getting it from you and Andre, like talking about the stuff. And there was a point at which it was when you were talking about the ear scanning stuff that I was like, you know what? Fuck this. But I also didn't have that context as it being a GDC talk. And I really wish that on Twitter they had said, hey, we're going to be delivering the GDC talk that we had planned with Mark Cerny today at blah, blah, blah. And then it would have been like, okay, expectations set. So yeah, it was poor. But in Sony's defense, that talk was significantly better than the technical Series X talk that Xbox did, which they didn't really market at all. So I don't think I don't want to be too hard on them for it just being a pretty normal, like, let's stream and do a round table for a little bit thing. But I tuned into that for like 10 minutes and it was impossible to watch. It wasn't even impossible to watch because it was like techie. It was just the presentation was so dry and not providing any details at all. Like they were obfuscating the tech stuff too. And at one point they were like, we're going to bring in now this person who has worked with the government of South Carolina before on da 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 da. And I was like, don't fucking care, turning this off. This is at least Mark Cerny's stream was Mark Cerny, who is a guy that is enjoyable to listen to.
Yeah, he's awesome. So two things about the Sony side. Like, I don't think there's that much to be said about the Xbox side, but I'm going to swing back around to it. With the talk they had, for one, it being a GDC talk, I've been to GDC before, and it is not a fan event. Like, they specifically have barriers in place for it not to be a fan event. Like, when I had to apply for a pass, because yes, you have to pay the money, but you also have to be approved as someone who can go to GDC. You have to prove that you're in the industry, and like that you've released or you've worked in the industry or you're going to be working in the industry. So that's like the first barrier to entry. And then there's a couple others that whatever, doesn't matter. So that's why, not a fan event. If you're going to talks at GDC, you're getting deep into like programming, you're getting deep into actual marketing, like into all the like audio design, into whatever that actually goes into, like, it's technical talks. It's not marketing at all. People are like, oh, I want to go to GDC and go to the show floor like you would at a PAX or an E3. It has a show floor, but like, I would say 5% of that is playable games, and that's usually prototypes. The rest of it is like, oh, here's Capcom Vancouver with a recruiter here. You can bring them your resume and talk to them about what it's like to work at the studio. Like, it's not a fan event. So again, like when he was like, oh, this is a GDC talk, it sets that expectation in my mind.
Absolutely.
Where you think, okay, this is like when I went to see the talk from the dude who made all the music for Peggle, and how they designed the music to be interacting with the pegs, and here was the programming behind it. Like, I was like, okay, cool. I'm in that mindset. That's awesome.
Yeah. And as soon as you said that when we were talking about it, I was like, well, why didn't they say that in the tweet?
They really should have.
Because like, it makes sense.
Because like the reception
it contextualizes it so much. Because
the reception was toxic. Like, people were going in and like editing Mark Cerny's Wikipedia page to say really shitty things about him.
Well, and that's just toxic anyway. I got frustrated when we were talking about it, but I would never have vented that into a public space or at Mark Cerny. Like, fuck off to people who are doing that. That's shitty. It
doesn't make any sense. But but the second part that I was gonna say is the information that came out of that stream was actually really fucking cool. Like the reason I highlighted that the Xbox Series X is basically just a PC in the way it's functioning and the way they have everything designed is because Sony has specifically made some stuff that is decidedly not like a PC, which is actually what makes me more interested in the PS5 than the Xbox Series X right now. Because I'll try not to get too deep into the details, but he basically talked about how We've all known about the hard drive and how it's going to be an NVMe SSD, like how it's fast and it's going to eliminate load times and stuff like that. That's been a thing that's been kind of shown in prototypes and rumors for probably a year now, I think, maybe a little less. Yeah. But it started with that leaked Spider-Man thing that came out of some GDC talk or something. I don't remember. But the thing he was talking about that's really cool is the fact that the hard drive is almost acting as RAM at some points because it's so fast. And the way they are implementing that with like, I'm not getting into details. I want to talk about the buses and the IO like threading and stuff like that. But basically you can load stuff that's going on around you like you would with RAM, but it's dynamic because it's so fast, which means it takes a lot of pressure off of the GPU. It takes a lot of pressure off of RAM itself, so they can actually start reallocating all that stuff for different reasons. And it means they can actually change game design, which is really like one of the biggest takeaways is that limitations have been in place for a really long time because of traditional design, because you have a limited amount of memory, like 16 gigs of memory, we'll say, in your computer. And that's where games right now are loading all of their assets. So if you're seeing a load screen in a video game, it's because it's loading all the shit it can into memory so that when you load into the game, it's just there. It's not loading it from the hard drive, which can be slow and inconsistent depending on hard drive speeds and where it lives on the actual platter, stuff like that. RAM is much more quickly accessible. And so by making the hard drive basically really fast RAM, like there's no more limitations. So that stuff is really fucking cool.
I do wonder how much it's going to have a, like, because like the PS3 was pretty far beyond the 360 in terms of its architecture and like the things you could do with it. And I understand that this is still like x86 architecture, and it's not as large of a difference from like a CPU perspective as the PS3 to the 360. But I do wonder a bit if they're going to run into a situation where, like, again, the first party stuff that they're making is some of the coolest stuff you can play because it's taking advantage of all of these unique technical elements of the system, but then it's still going to be expensive and not end up doing much for third-party games at the end of the day and kind of be like somewhat underutilized. It's a different time now, so I'm not saying I'm not going to go and say like, oh, it's just going to be like the PS3 all over again, because that's clearly not the case. But it's an interesting thing to think about, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes along for free. Like, I think it's just going to see inherent benefits. I don't think it's something you're going to need to design around. I think you can take advantage of it now. Like, it's the kind of thing where if you have it in mind, you can change your design philosophy from a programming point of view or from a game design point of view. But I don't think, like, if people are designing stuff for the Series X and it does not have those capabilities, I think you'll still get benefits from the fact that they're using that at their OS level, at their like platform level, that might make it better just in terms of how fast it responds. But I don't think you're going to see the same issues that you had of making one version for 360, one version for PS3, because they're basically the same architecture otherwittle. Right. This is more about like how it's reading from the actual hard drive and RAM and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think cool. it'll be really interesting to see how the next generation pans out from like, it certainly felt for a long time like it was just going to be and I've been cynical about it, but from a cynical perspective of like, oh, we're all going to buy $500 boxes to eliminate load times. Yay.
Are we though?
But, well, yeah, who knows? But it's starting to seem more now like both companies are taking interesting approaches and are doing what I want to see happen is for them to continue to diverge and just deliver two different products. Like, It's great if Microsoft just makes a really powerful PC that's easier to get and more accessible than having a gaming PC that you can stick next to your television and play really, really amazing traditional kinds of games on that system and use Game Pass to do it with a relatively low cost, all things considered. And it's great if Sony goes into a more experimental direction, and you're getting more ambitious first party titles. That is also a place where you can play the same kind of games that you can play on Xbox too.
Well, to that would be cool to me. To that point, what I think is more interesting about the PS5 is that it's not so much that it's like new tech, that it's all this, like it's not really new tech. It's just that they're approaching it from a different angle. And if it works, and if it's provable to work, and if it is a demonstrable benefit, I think that's something that we can see trickle down into PC design. I think that's something we can see trickle down into like server architecture. We can see that going on in like maybe even the Series X will start doing some like kind of borrowing some of those ideas and putting that into firmware. So I think that's the interesting part of the Sony one for me, is that we might actually be seeing benefits outside of the PS5 because
that's really cool.
Yeah, because they're taking the time to reassess how we're using the hardware that we have and how we can make it better. And I think that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know. It's the rest of the presentation was cool too. The audio stuff, like you were talking about the ear thing.
It is cool too. I don't mean to imply that it's not.
The thing they were talking about was super fucking cool. But yeah, I think he kind of threw that out there as like maybe we could even do this as like a throwaway thing. And everyone's like, fucking hell, Sony's asking for our ears. And just like,
and when I was frustrated with it, it had nothing to do with the security concern. I don't care. They can take a picture of my ear. Like you said, it's just like I use my face to unlock my phone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But it was more just the like, why are we this far on the fucking weeds? We don't even know when the thing's coming or how much it costs.
Yeah, really funny.
And it said there will be a Spider-Man on it.
And as somebody that was watching it that doesn't necessarily have the same level of technical knowledge as you, Alex, is definitely like you're watching it, you're like, okay, I don't really understand what's going on. And then Mark Cerny's like, maybe you could send us pictures of your ears. And you're like, what?
If you weren't following.
I understand your fetishes, Mark.
It's like, I understand what that means, but I don't like.
Can you say it one more time?
Like, I think if that was said in a room of developers at GDC, there would have been laughs.
Yeah.
But
I think on the stream where people were already frustrated, it got kind of pulled into a weird direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. It's the type of thing where like at GDC, you're like, okay, cool. At like with people who don't know the technical aspects of it and are like, when are we going to find like actual information about how we're going to use the PlayStation 5? And then you hear like, hey, if you want to, you can send us pictures of your ears.
And I even understand that's actually one element of the technical stuff that I do understand, because I do have an educational background in like sound design and the way that your ears that ears work and stuff.
It's psychoacoustics.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Like I understood exactly why they would say that off the bat, but I was also like, my fucking PlayStation headphones sound fine. I had just come off of finishing Modern Warfare as well, which has some of the best sound design in any game maybe ever made. So I had just come out of playing that with my nice Logitech headphones, and I was like, that sounds fine. You don't need more. It sounds amazing already.
But if that without that they want pictures of your ears.
Yeah.
To add to my collection.
So I think that's an interesting point though, Pat. That's something I've been saying for almost since the PS3, which is that like in terms of visual fidelity, we've kind of we've hit a peak for a while that we haven't really surpassed in many years. Like, and one could say audio is similar. Like they are making some innovations with audio and how it's like, they're saying it's similar to ray tracing and that you'll be able to get realistic things bouncing off of walls and stuff like that, which is cool. That's something I was trying to do in university, but it's fucking hard. And CPUs back then weren't up for it.
Right.
But like, actually one of my prototypes was a game without visuals that very heavily took part at like made that instead of like rendering stuff with GPU, I was rendering audio with GPU and almost had it working, but I didn't have time. So the fact that they're dedicating a chip to it and that will actually be like something that developers can use, that's super fucking cool.
Totally.
So like, but still, is it going to be an exponential difference from the audio you're used to? Maybe not, but it does give more options.
But my issue with it is that if that chip adds another, and I know that this is very reductive and not how it works, so don't take me too hard task.
Don't add him.
But if that chip provides a marginal difference that is only really noticeable to extreme audiophiles who also understand what the programming is doing, and the system then costs an extra $40 because that chip is in there, it's like, I don't know about this.
That's what. That's what I was thinking when I was watching. I was like reading up on the specs for Series X, and then also watching some of this PS5 stuff. Is as somebody that like my currently played system right now is the Switch. So clearly, the strongest graphical fidelity is not what I'm after. But like, do I necessarily want to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars and make it maybe my most expensive console purchase, possibly because of incremental advances that I don't necessarily care about? And so it's a weird value proposition, I think.
Yep. And I see what you're saying. And I think one of the things that inherently comes along with it that they didn't really draw attention to, because I think if you're technical, you are already picking up on the fact that it's doing this, is that it's taking the audio rendering off of the CPU. So anything that would normally be processed by the CPU, that was like, if you're dedicating 10% of your CPU cycles to audio, that's 10% of cycles that are now freed up that can be used for AI, that can be used for, I don't know, like whatever they want now. Like they have 10% more headroom because they're moving all of that audio stuff onto a separate chip, much like how they moved the streaming stuff onto a separate chip on the PS4. So that wasn't impacting your actual game use. So I think that's actually probably what it's going to more amount to in reality. If it was purely just for making the audio nicer, like if it was just like a layer on top of what was already happening on the CPU, I 100% agree with you. But I think it is actually of benefit because it is offloading all of that.
I think so much of it just needs to be seen in motion, really.
Right. And I think that there needs to, I mean, this isn't what that talk was at all, but when they do end up doing something that's more consumer focused or consumer driven, is kind of showing, hey, average person, you might not hear the difference, but here is how it would improve X, or this is why it matters to you. And just kind of showing that to everybody.
Yeah.
And I guess we haven't seen that yet, but I mean,
again, I think that comes back to the fact that it's a GDC talk. And I think they're not intending that to be like, okay, I'm going to I don't mean this in like a reductive or rude way, but like, they're not going to dumb it down at a GDC talk. Like they're not going to make it into like, they're going to go way lower level than what you would expect from a high level marketing pitch.
I think at the end of the day, though, the part that still irks me and that I'm just curious to see how they handle it is when they finally do have that more marketing focused presentation for consumers and press and stuff, and they say, with the unparalleled power of the PlayStation 5, we're going to deliver to you an incredible experience in Sony Santa Monica's God of War 2. And then they roll a gameplay trailer and it looks like God of War 1 with some incremental improvements. And then at the end of the presentation, that console costs $500. I'm going to be like, why the fuck am I buying a new box? If just give me another God of War that looks like the last one I played and charge me $60 for it. Like,
which again,
the last God of War looked incredible.
That's
on my base level PS4.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at when I said like visuals are good now. Like even at the end of the PS3, visuals were good then. The thing that's going to set all of these apart, which I think is still to come. Like we need to see the services. We need to see, like you were saying, Pat, the infinite suspended applications. We need to see more stuff like that actually makes the system itself a value proposition on top of what we already have.
I think the reason that I've been more comfortable with Microsoft's marketing is because they have been like pretty early on in all of this. Last year, you had Phil Spencer saying like, hey, you're going to be able to play every Microsoft exclusive into the 2020s on your Xbox One X.
Yep.
You're going to be fine. Like if you want to kick it up a notch, you'll be able to play it on a Series X, but like I will be able to play Senua's Saga when it comes out, whether or not I buy a Series X. It maybe won't look quite as good. It may not run at 60 frames per second in 4K, but that game is going to be playable on more than just the newest console. And that is exactly the thing that I wanted to hear from both of them, because it's totally fine to release a luxury product that improves your experience, but it feels like an artificial gate to say, well, because we made the graphics 10% better, it's not going to work on PS4 anymore. When I don't give a fuck about God of War looking 10% better. So it's so much of it is dependent on, like you said, value proposition and what it actually means. If it means that for Spider-Man, they can make the game world, 40% closer to it being an actual New York City, that sounds more like something that's worth it to me. Like if they're able to start increasing like the size and scope and depth of the experience, cool. And I think the thing that is even more, I know I was sort of talking to you, Alex, a little bit about like little ideas, like things like weather and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. An even bigger thing for me is like, no one has ever made an open world. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 is like, in some ways, a pinnacle of open worlds. So, I mean, say what you will about the gameplay and the story or whatever, you fall where you may on that. But if you spend some time with that game, you start to see that like, holy shit, we can do this now. It is absolutely enormous in scope. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous, like details down to a can of beans sitting in a house that you'll never go into unless you go looking for it. Like it is the most realized, incredible open world ever made. It also took like one of the most well-funded studios in the world 10 years of hell to make it. And so if somehow these tools can start, one, making it more possible for AAA developers to do this kind of stuff without destroying themselves, and two, I want to see, like, I like Red Dead 2, but I would much rather see like a small indie studio have the ability to make something like that without needing hundreds of people and tens of thousands of man hours. Yep. And so that's the other thing. That's the other side of it that I don't understand, but I would love to see the tools evolve in a way where that becomes more possible. Yeah. And I was actually going to say, like, it will make that easier for AAA developers, but I think the bigger point is that it'll make it possible for indie developers. Yeah. Like, and that's really cool because, like, think of a game like The Division, the original Division, where you had New York, and if you were walking around the streets were very well rendered. But if you were going into buildings, it usually involved like a slight load or like, you know, it was a separate instance or whatever. With the way that it's working with how Sony's describing, less so with how Microsoft's describing, and that's probably how they're able to keep kind of the backwards compatibility. But with how Sony's describing, it's possible that like you would just be able to walk into any building and there would be fully simulated stuff in there, that it's just dynamically loading from the hard drive as though it were RAM, which that's for me what would make the case that it, like, maybe you could have that on the older console, but every time you walk into one of those buildings, there's 40 seconds of load. And it's like, well, at some point, if you're spending 60% of your time waiting for loading, it's worth going to the new console. And there's things like, I want to see a game that has a world with the depth and scope of something like a Red Dead or a GTA 5. Really more specifically a Red Dead, but that isn't about like killing thousands of people. Like I want to see the indie studio that like makes a private detective RPG where you can play the whole game without ever holding a gun, you know, that's set in a huge, lush, vibrant city that has tons of life and things like that. And that's just not something that you're going to get out of major studios. And so I would love to see indies empowered to be able to make that kind of stuff. Man, like it's like you can do Animal Crossing, but it's in New York City. So you're the mayor of New York City, but animals. Exactly. Yes. Hell yeah. Anyways, we can stop talking about tech for now if you guys want. I think the rest of our stories will be relatively light. We have here in the notes, fuck GameStop, which I think we can all agree with. I don't know if we need to dive into the details. You just look up some tweets from Jason Schreier. He's been really good at reporting on it. Jason Schreier within the week of, let's say, March 15th-ish. Somewhere around there, you'll find it. It basically, GameStop
during the pandemic, everything, they've been saying that they are, how do they say, a necessary
essential retail,
essential resource or whatever. Yeah.
Retail. Yeah. Because you can only be, the only stores that can be open in lockdowns are essential stores like drugstores and grocery stores. And that's what that means, is drugstores and grocery stores. It does not mean like it's essential to have clothes. That's not what that means. Yeah. It means you can go to your drugstore and get your prescriptions.
Profoundly dumb.
Yeah, that was stupid. And then they were asking employees to use PTO or file for unemployment or something, I think was like and it's just awful. And like, I think it just outlines, I know we had this conversation a little bit with Sam, because he seemed like more surprised about it, but I think it just outlines that like the system in the United States is GameStop does not care about the people that work in their stores at all. They never have, they never will. You are numbers on a spreadsheet. They do not care about you. And it's terrible and baked into the system. And you would hope that in times like these, it allows us to really see that, so that we can stop letting those kinds of organizations like exist, or at least force them to change.
I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of that kind of restructuring and assessment in the next coming months, because it's not going to get better from here.
Nope,
not immediately.
Yeah.
But support your local game stores as much as you can. The ones that the one that I have near me was I went there to pick up the show on Wednesday, I think it was, and they were gloved up and had like sanitation stuff at the ready, and they had they had the line directed so that no one could be within, I was the only person in the store, but no one could be within 6 feet of each other and stuff. And it was very well handled. So yeah, there are places you're going to be able to go buy games that are better than GameStop.
Right. Yeah. And especially in these uncertain, ridiculous times, supporting local businesses as much as you can is great. Even if it's just like buying a gift card for later, it's very helpful. Like I haven't done this yet, but one of my local game stores is starting to do local deliveries for free, and you can buy some like. You can buy like a grab bag of graphic novels or something like that. So it's just do what you can to support your local game stores. GameStop is not one of them.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And it sucks for the people who work at GameStop and rely on the income that they get there. So I don't want to minimize that. Like it's hard because you should support local businesses, but you also have to remember that you can't do the thing that GameStop does. You have to remember that the people that work at GameStop are people, and that they also have needs and financial needs. And like, it sucks for them to not have them, but it would be great if we could just make more local game stores so that all of those people could work at better employers. So yeah. In cooler, related to the current state of the pandemic news, over 6.2 million concurrent Steam users last Saturday.
Yeah.
Which is a all-time record, right?
I think so. Yep. All-time.
I think that's what this rate. Yeah. All-time concurrent record. I saw something about how CSGO was the number one played.
It had over 1 million.
Yep. CSGO was up there. Crazy. PUBG was up there. Dota 2 was up there. Rainbow Six Siege was up there. GTA 5 was up there. So the usual suspects.
Yeah.
But it's interesting given how popular the stuff that is available through the Battle.net launcher, whether it's Overwatch or Modern Warfare or WoW Classic or whatever. If you like add those numbers to the Steam numbers, because I would assume that that's the second highest chunk of people who would have been playing games, you got to figure that you're starting to hit that 10 million concurrents playing online video games at once. And if you add in like League of Legends, geez, it's pretty wild.
Not surprising though.
No. And it's obviously a terrible circumstance that has led us to this, but at least it's good that video games exist.
I'm so glad video games exist right now.
At least it's good that video games exist. You're right.
Well, I mean, I say that because like I have friends, like one of my friends from high school who moved here, and we hilariously still have not like gotten together to meet up since they moved here. But I think they don't play a lot of video games. Last I knew, they didn't. And we were talking the other day, and they were like, I don't know what to do.
Totally.
For me, it's like this. I've been training for this my entire life.
Yeah.
I've been building a catalog for the last 10 years of my employed life of games to play that I should go back and touch. So it's fine. This can just be normal now. At least in terms of the staying inside part. I don't want the people dying part to be normal, but
yeah.
It's great that it exists, and clearly people are taking advantage of it. And maybe some people will start to find that they might like games more, who normally would turn their nose up at them. So,
yeah. And then, for what it's worth, for those who aren't into games, one, why are you listening to this podcast? Two, at least there's the 24 and 48. If you guys are familiar with that, there's that whole movement. You can find it on Twitter. It's where people are basically saying, oh, like read 24 chapters in 48 hours. So read a bunch of books. Like, like so people.
Yeah, and that stuff's good too, obviously.
But I've been watching a bunch of movies and
there's home fitness stuff you can do, and so there's a lot of stuff you can do.
Point being, stay the fuck home as much as you possibly can.
Oh my god,
stay home, and also like if you can, like I saw my partner and I are big fans of Josh Sawyer over at Obsidian Entertainment. He is doing bike rides, and people like got in his mentions and were like, how this is so irresponsible for you to be out and about. And he was like, okay, I'm going to stop you right there. And linked like the resources that specifically talk about, in a lot of lockdown procedures in European countries, they talk about how you can get outside and be active outdoors during a situation like this. And it just means you just have to take precautions. That means, by the way, being outside, not going out. That means going on a solo bike ride where you are not getting close to people and you're not touching surfaces. You ride your route and then go home. That means like going for a walk where you walk around your block and you do not interact with people or touch anything. So like, I'm not saying you should stay home as much as possible as opposed to like going to a bar, but you can stay active still and enjoy like outside and stuff.
Yeah. Just be cognizant.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the key.
Yeah. And also, I mean, I've yesterday got a couple things delivered to me. And like you can still manage like some, like as far as you can stay away from people while they deliver you food. And I also got alcohol delivered to me, the necessities, but also just make sure to tip people well, because they're going out and all of this. So, so I definitely upped my tipping game yesterday when I got those delivered, because I want people to at least if you have to go outside and do the whole gig economy delivery thing, at least hopefully you get a decent amount of money from it.
Yeah,
one would hope.
All right. So kind of speaking of, we'll pivot to this and then we have a couple more things. Speaking of it being cool, video games exist. So one of the many sport casualties of this whole thing has been Formula One, which should be a casualty of this. As much as I love Formula One, it is a circus of folks from all over Europe and the world, traveling all over the world for 9 months, just kind of carrying whatever diseases they have with them. So it is a bad thing. It's like national sports it's good that they're getting canceled. This is like international, a specific group of people traveling all over the world. Anyway, one thing that they're doing that I kind of was hoping they would do, that I think a lot of people suggested, is they're doing some virtual Grand Prix using the Codemasters Formula One game, which cool. is not like, there are more simmy racers that exist, but the Codemasters F1 games are quite simmy. They're I would say they are more true to life than even something like a Forza. They're not quite all the way into iRacing territory, but they're close. And if you play with, a full rig, which is what they're doing, it's pretty, a good Formula One driver will do well. And so they're taking the opportunity to do a lot of fun stuff too. Like, they're not like forcing drivers to do it. So like, I don't know that Lewis Hamilton is participating, but it's a lot of the younger drivers. And then they have a lot of like, past drivers who might be retired, fun surprises of like, I assume they're going to do some fun stuff, like have the team principals do some races and stuff. The guys who are usually coaches, I should say, the people who are usually coaches, because there are also women who are team principals. That stuff will be really fun, I think, to see. And hopefully they'll get some, like, there's a big push in general in Formula One right now to have more women driving in the sport. They have a whole division called Formula W that is all women. The point of which is to specifically, the only reason that there aren't more women drivers in Formula One is because of how patriarchal motorsports are. It has nothing to do with like talent or ability. And so it's just that women aren't generally given the same opportunities. So anyway, Formula W is a chance for women to gain points on the license you need to become a Formula One driver. And I think it would be cool if they had some of the drivers from that series in on this stuff too. There's just a lot of different ways they can take it. And they're going to be live streaming all of it on like YouTube and F1.com and stuff. So keep an eye out. I think it's tomorrow at some time. So it's time zone dependent. So I don't want to say a time.
I would love to see that, especially if you had mentioned before we started recording that there's the younger guys who train on this game, or probably this game, or like BeamNG or whatever they want. Like they're used to it. They turn off all of the assists, but the older fellows who maybe have, or ladies, but the people who have never played the game before and have never interacted with it, it's going to be fun seeing those kinds of people just playing a game and seeing how they react.
Yeah. So I think they're doing I have the schedule up now at 1500 GMT today on Saturday, 21st of March, which may be after you hear this, I'm not sure. They're doing a like rewatch of the 2016 Brazil Grand Prix. And then tomorrow at 1800 GMT, they're doing 2 quarter length races in what they're calling #NotTheBaGP. So that'll be the virtual, the first of the virtual ones, I think. Or actually, I can't even tell. It almost looks like this is RC cars, actually, which would be very funny. And then tomorrow at 2000 GMT, they're doing the virtual Bahrain Grand Prix. So all of that should be fun. I hope they expand on this as the season continues, because so far they've pushed it back to June, but it's probably just going to get canceled outright. Because I don't think things are going to be much better in June.
Nope.
Let's see. We have a couple of other little things. Teamfight Tactics is out on mobile now, which is cool. Yeah, I played a little bit and then fell asleep in the middle of it last night, but only because I was in bed going to sleep, not because it was boring. I actually think I might have won the game I was playing if I had been able to stay awake. But TFT is cool. It's a nice alternative to Underlords. I like the way that those games have kind of diverged enough that they're both unique in their own thing. And IGN did one of their re-reviews. They did this with No Man's Sky not too long ago, which is a smart way to handle service games, and gave Sea of Thieves an 8.0.
What did they originally give Sea of Thieves? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think it was like a 7 something.
Yeah, I think we're both. Yeah, it was a 7.
Yeah. And I don't know. That seems like a good score. Sea of Thieves is one of those games that I really wish I played more of, because I love the act of playing that game. It feels so much fun to play, but it only gets you so far to play it solo. And I have had a couple of experiences with strangers where I've had fun, but it's just not. I don't know. I wish, and it sucks because I actually know some people who would love it, but unfortunately they look at it and they're like, it's a cartoon pirate game where you don't get any, there's nothing to get, so you don't get better guns, so why would I play? And so that's unfortunate. But yeah, I don't know. Play Sea of Thieves. It's on Game Pass. Buy one with the Game Pass. Celebrate Sea of Thieves. It's another great game for the times we're in right now, because you can make it super, super, super relaxing and chill, or very, very stressful and hard, depending on how you want to play it. And then we had there was a Nintendo Indies stream.
Yeah. Anybody else check that out?
Other than me? I did not watch it.
I watched the archive of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think personally it was not necessarily the most interesting of them. There's a lot of games that looked pretty good, but not necessarily must plays for me. The couple ones that did hit for me that I'm interested in is there's a game called Baldo, which is the Studio Ghibli kind of Ni no Kuni looking RPG. So I'm interested to see how that is, especially since it's more of like an action RPG. So
they said action RPG. It looked very Zelda-like to me, but maybe there's more ARPG stuff. Not that Zelda isn't an action RPG, but
but it's
that kind of action RPG.
No, yeah, for sure. So I'm interested to see how that all plays out. There's also Summer in Mara, which is kind of like life simmy, explore an island and go on a boat, but also you're doing farming and stuff. So it looked very like another chill game in that.
Yeah, and that team said, I gotta double check who they're called Chibig SLU.
Yeah.
And they talked about how they make games about farming. It looks like they have a few prior games that look kind of interesting. But that one was very pretty. It reminded me kind of like a My Time at Portia, but less. I find My Time at Portia to be extremely obnoxious, and I cannot get into it. Like, I don't like the tone of that game at all. And then there was a bunch of fuckery around that developer for a while too. So, I don't have any problems kind of dunking on that game. And Summer and Mara looked like a much more pretty, enjoyable thing like that.
Yeah. I'm also excited that Swery's The Good Life is going to Switch. I was looking forward to that game, and since the Switch is kind of is definitely my preferred console right now, it's like very excited about that. Yeah, and there's just a lot of other good. Oh, and their one shadow drop was Exit the Gungeon, which is the new Enter the Gungeon thing. So I'll probably pick that up because I like Enter the Gungeon quite a bit. Was there anything that stood out to you, Pat, that I didn't mention?
I'm actually excited now for The Last Campfire game.
That looked pretty cool.
That's the new Hello Games title.
Yeah.
They originally announced it last year, and it was pitched as it is not a Sean Murray game. It is a game that is made by another team that's not the No Man's Sky team, that's like kind of within that team that broke off to make this sort of smaller narrative experience. And when they first showed it last year, I was kind of like, it looks like it's very much a short, like, brothers kind of go from point A to point B and get the story. But this trailer that they showed for it this time was much more emotive, and the tone seemed a lot more clear. It seems like it's going to be a very emotional game, and I think it's more puzzle focused than I initially thought from that trailer last year.
Yeah.
It made it seem very much like not so much puzzles, just like gates between the narrative. But this trailer made it look more like you're actually solving puzzles to do things. So I think that one looks it's actually on my radar now. As a big fan of Hello Games' past output, I'm excited to see that it looks more interesting. That was kind of it, though. I thought that Baldo game looked neat too. I thought it was interesting to see how many European studios they highlighted in this stream, which was cool. And yeah, there was one other game that I can't remember now. That was earlier on. That was also kind of a European team, had a kind of striking art style. Early in the thing. Hang on.
Are you talking about I Am Dead?
No, although that looks very cool.
That looks really interesting.
Yeah.
And just the Nintendo, like hearing the Nintendo Direct, like I Am Dead is coming to Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. I'm not sure which one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
But there was some cool stuff. It's worth going to check it out. I think some little things too, like Sky is coming to Switch. That seems like a much better platform than mobile for that game.
Dicey Dungeons is coming to Switch as well.
Which means that hopefully a phone version is not far behind.
That'd be good. Yeah.
And then that Quantum League game is interesting.
That's one of those games where I don't think I'll be any good at that game, but I am so interested to see high level gameplay of it.
Yeah, I played it some at PAX. I don't think that it's super cool, but it is so hard to wrap your head. Have you seen this game, Alex?
Which one?
Quantum League?
No.
It is a game where it's a 1v1 shooter and it's round based, and your like ghost from the previous round, whatever you did in the previous round, does their loop that you set in future rounds.
Interesting.
It's very cool, but when you try to conceptualize how you could use that strategically, it doesn't make sense. It makes it just seem like that just means they're like hazards.
Was it Super Time Force that kind of did that last gen?
Might have been.
I can't remember.
But it's a weird game. I'm excited to see people who are good at it play it, so I can understand how it's supposed to work. Because it doesn't. When I played it was like, okay, it's like 1v1 gunfights. I get it. Now I have to avoid the spot I went before.
It's a game that I would love to see people play. I don't know if I'll pick it up because I am almost certainly going to be terrible at it.
I'm totally going to play it on PC some, but I do think I'll be bad at it.
Yeah, PC is probably the way to play it, but I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you can. I don't know if it's not out in early access, but they keep running betas on PC, so you can get into it at different times. I think it's coming fairly soon to at least to early access. So yeah. And I think that the other thing I like is just that I really love that Nintendo is continuing to highlight indie devs and to highlight indie games on the platform, because that's I think one of the reasons that I love my Switch so much is that it's become a really great indie handheld console for me. And also the thing that was very funny is that they had like the kind of near the end they had that little highlight reel, and the music was very intense. And then there's a game where you played like a card game with birds, and I forget what it was called, but it was very funny to see like this like intense rock music. Oh yeah. Yes.
And then it's
Wingspan.
Like, yeah.
Oh,
and it's
that.
like we're going bird watching. It's like yeah.
It's funny because Wingspan Digital is probably one of my most anticipated games of the year.
It looks pretty
so
good.
I thought it was funny to see it there, and yes, the music's pairing was hilarious.
It was just very funny to be like, whoa.
That's pretty inspired.
Birds.
For those that don't know, Wingspan is like one of the best board games or tabletop games of 2019. Very highly regarded. Beautiful, one of the prettiest games probably ever made. Very nitty gritty programming too. Like that's the style of the game it is. You program a tableau of cards to do stuff, and the digital version looks great. But it is a game about bird watching. The theme doesn't mean anything. They just picked bird watching to do some pretty art. It could have been about construction or building a town or I don't know, shooting people, but they chose bird watching because there's not enough games about birds.
Yeah, I think that's very cool, and I think that the more variety in game types is very cool. Like I'm extremely interested to see more footage of moving out, which is where you're moving furniture. But
that thing, right?
I just thought that
is that the one from the Overcooked devs?
I don't know if it's from the devs. It definitely looks a lot like Overcooked.
It totally looks like it.
Which is why I don't know if I'm going to get it, because I don't know if I have enough people to play like that with me. But I'm excited to watch it and maybe buy it with my friends and play it.
I'll be honest. That game, my deep dark secret is I kind of loathe Overcooked. I do not like playing it, and I have been dragged into playing it a lot at parties and stuff, and I hate it. Moving Out looked fun to me, though. That looks like one that I would be much more interested in playing. It's like Frogger and Overcooked.
Yeah.
And I like Frogger, so. Where
you're trying to move things and move like there's a lot more. It looks like there's a lot more mobility than in Overcooked, where you're just kind of in the same kitchen.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was very like. The games in the highlight reel looked pretty good, but it was also very funny to be like, yeah, moving out, you're moving your stuff. There's also birds, rock music.
Yes.
And you're just like,
It really did not need that intense rock music.
It kind of did, though. It kind of needed it.
You didn't need it, but you're glad it was there.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I love them indies, and I love that Nintendo continues to support indie content.
Yeah.
Yeah, and do it better than Sony and Microsoft do. That's for sure.
Yeah. Fuck Ryan.
Fuck Ryan. Totally. Oh my God.
Ryan's an asshole.
He was just such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And you're just like, they at first, like, you're like, oh, is he going to be really that big of a piece of shit? And then you learn more about him and you're like, oh, he sucks so bad.
Yeah. And then you entrap him, and then he reveals that he was even bigger of a piece of shit than you thought he was.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think we were talking about the same Ryan.
No. We're talking about fucking Ryan.
I know. In Murder by Numbers, I know.
Damn, the ex-husband who's just...
piece of shit. Honor deserves so much better than Ryan.
Yep, he deserves Scout. She deserves Scout.
Yes. Yeah.
On that note.
All
right,
I think we all deserve Scout here.
Yep.
Oh, I want Scout to be my friend.
Send pictures of your ears to gaming@fix.space.
Please do. We'll design some audio for you. I'll design some audio for you.
Okay. I will make you a playlist if you send me.
Oh, I'll make you a playlist. Send me your ears. You could also just send me one of your ears, and then I'll make something perfect for the other ear.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
Send it back with the stapler. That's how that works, right?
Exactly. That's how that works. Allyson, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
Alex, where can people find you?
Looking at Allyson's Twitter.
Oh.
I thought you were going to say looking at Allison's ears for a second.
No.
I was like, please stop. I'm going to report you to the weirdo police.
Oh, don't worry. It's been a long time coming.
Don't worry. I'm on that list already. You can find me at PJC Plays, and you can find us at Fix Podcasts on Twitter. And I'm going to put the call out. Please leave us a review on your platform, platform of choice if it's available. And also leave us a review through Apple Podcasts, even if that's not your podcast platform of choice, because those are really helpful. So just go do that somewhere on your friend's phone, or use your web browser, or I don't know. Find a way to review us on Apple Podcasts in addition to the places
an iPhone, like do an elaborate iPhone heist.
Yeah, exactly.
Then,
Order an iPhone.
Yeah. Borrow a family member's iPad.
And then return it.
Oh.
Yeah. Something like that. Just whatever you do.
Subscribe your dad to our podcast.
Do that. Yeah, that sounds good. Get your dad to write a review. only if it's 5 stars though.
Are my parents subscribed to me to this podcast? I don't know. I'll have to see.
Yeah.
Because I know that they once listened to it, and I was like, "What are you doing?" Because they
otherwise
play podcasts, play games.
Otherwise, enjoy your week, and I hope that if the pandemic is affecting everyone, but obviously our thoughts go out to people that it is affecting harshly economically and from a health perspective, and we wish you the very best. And if you are in a position to do so, look at mutual aid programs in your area. There's a lot of them that are run by people on the ground, and they're far more effective than trying to get your governments to do stuff. So
local food banks are great, and they can stretch your dollar extremely far, much further than donating food.
Support children's charities, support homeless charities, and if you can, support your local SPCA.
Yes, I think that's all for us for this week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Be well.